Utah is getting a lot of love in the preseason awards. And it's not just by me just randomly saying this team is going to be a top 25 team. It's people smarter than me. Because for those of you who are just listening on podcast, I just noticed that I said Utah football top 25 in 2025, basically, in our little show rundown graphic. So I apologize for that gaffe. But people smarter than me at Bleacher Report, ESPN, and The Athletic, Stuart Mandel, all have Utah listed inside the top 15 for way too early 2024. I think it's absolutely fair for a lot of the reasons we've discussed. Cam Rising, the tight end depth, an elite staple of running backs, even when you lose Jaquindon Jackson, an offensive line that still returns 3 starters. Yes, the receiver position is a question mark, but look around college football. A lot of other teams have big question marks too. The defense, the front 7, yes, you lose your best pass rusher, but you are well equipped to replace him. All 3 of your best linebackers are back. And while the secondary, you need to retool it, Utah's done exactly that in the transfer portal and attacked it well. Factor in the Kyle Whittingham consistently factor, and I think Utah absolutely deserves their ranking in these way too early top 25 lists in 2024.
Can I make you a little sad and then happy?
Sure. You've done, but yeah, you do both usually. So yeah.
Utah lost 5 games in 2023, 4 games in 22, 4 games in 21, en route to Pac-12 championships. In 2019, they lost 3 games. This is a program that does lose ball games. They lose multiple ball games. That's what Kyle Whittingham has done. However, they still find a freaking way to win in the postseason. That postseason being Pac-12 championships at this point.
Not bowl games. Not bowl games. You know that. Not bowl games.
But the Pac-12 championship. To me, Utah seems like the perfect embodiment of this. Everybody hold on to your seats. The Utah Utes go 9-3, maybe 10-2. And what you're hearing right now, you're going, well, that doesn't sound like a top 10 team. But wait, partner. That is good enough in this Big 12 to get you to the Big 12 championship. And then all you have to do is win to go to the college football playoff. The champion of the Big 12 gets in no matter what. And that is where Utah will wreak havoc. And you'll go, remember that year Utah had 3 losses and won the national championship? Because that's just kind of what Utah does, right? Right? You think like, they lost enough games. They're not going to win the Pac-12 championship this year. Maybe not. And then somehow the chips fall perfectly in Utah's favor and they win. I have them at number 1 on my way too early 2024 power rankings. Kansas at 2, Arizona at 3, West Virginia a lot back at 4, Iowa State at 5. Now these are way too early. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do that most people aren't going to do. ESPN, CBS, those guys, they're not going to tweak that in a week. Mine's going to change by next Monday. Mine's going to change by 2 Mondays from now, right? As I monitor the transfer portal, who's in, who's out. And also, I'm going to look deeper than just, Utah's 11th in the Big 12 in transfer portal rankings. They don't have to be top 5. Cincinnati needs to be. They need a roster overhaul to compete in the Big 12. Utah doesn't. There are some teams at the bottom of the power rankings when it comes to transfer portal that need to be. There's positive attrition. 5 guys left. They probably didn't need to be there anyway. And then you bring in the pieces that you need. Utah's in a place where they are good enough for that problem to happen, to not be a top 5 transfer portal team in the conference. They shouldn't be because they're such a sturdy program. Utah at number 1. The defense is good enough. I think the defense will end up being the best in the Big 12 because the returning players, and as long as it's not injury Mageddon again, Utah's in a great spot in the Big 12 next year, especially with Cam Rising at the helm.
That was, fantastically said. And I said, hey, you like I said, you've done a lot of goodwill today. I think Utah fans will be loving on you.
I always do goodwill. It's the one thing. They're going to hear one thing, and then they're, I can't believe you said that. I'm done listening. And then they drown out that I like Utah.
Now, unfortunately, you might lose some Big 12 listeners because I did notice that you are drinking from an Arkansas cup on this podcast. I got to out you there.
I'm a Southwest Conference guy. I'm a big Southwest Conference fan. I spread the love.
But I absolutely agree with everything you were saying about Utah. And I think the one thing, too, is like we said, if you look at Utah, it could be like, hey, they need to fill some things in the secondary. They could use a receiver. The offensive line was a little shaky at the end. But but we could do that with every single college football team. Even
and can I be honest? I'm not even using the cases for why Utah's going to lose 2 or 3 games. It's just by virtue of what Kyle Whittingham has kind of done. And the schedule's it's not even that brutal for Utah. I also think it's a combination of Kyle Whittingham has lost 2 or 3 games. That's just what happens. Number 2, the Big 12 is going to be nuts, man. It's going to be nuts.
It's going to be crazy.
I could see Colorado. They're going to kill me. I could see Colorado going 4-8 with one of those wins being against Utah. I don't know if they.
I could see Colorado going better than 4-8. Actually, I'm a little. I mean, they got the best quarterback in the conference to me. As much as I love Cam,
also true. I just think that there's that level of parity in the conference that Utah could go 11-1 and still lose to a 5-7 team. Don't scream at me. It's just what happens here. Welcome to the Big 12.
Well, especially when that, like you said, that one-win team is the guy who's, as of this moment, the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. A lot has to happen between them, but that's how good Shedeur Sanders is. So, I think there's a lot that's going to happen. It's going to be really interesting to see. I love the position that Utah's in. They need to do a couple more things to tweak, but with how much returning talent they have and how much talent they still have from a team that won a conference championship, which is something not a lot of teams in college football can say in general right now.
It's like a weird little like they just froze. They froze that conference championship team in time. Like nobody move. Everybody's getting hurt. We're all coming back. We're getting the band back together after a year. I love it.
It's kind of like the 2020 season. That was such a weird one for Utah in general. But like, if you look at the
5 games, right?
5 games, COVID, it just didn't work. Like it was a mess. It was a disaster. But then if you like freeze that and go, man, the Tyler Huntley to Cam Rising transition was pretty nice. Now you skip over the part where it was Jake Bentley and your former guy, Charlie Brewer, too.
Yeah, don't forget Charlie Brewer.
Oh, trust me, Utah fans are not unable to. It was my first ever Utah BYU rivalry game. I went there and saw Charlie Brewer. And
BYU fans love Charlie Brewer.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure they do. And hey, speaking of Utah fans, Drake, I think Utah fans will be loving you. And if Utah fans want some more of you after today's episode, where should they head over to?
I'm going to be honest, 10% of you, I don't think I like. The other 90% are awesome and make me want to like Utah. But the other 10%, you guys stop being mean. At Drake C. Toll on Twitter. That's it.
Make sure you guys check out Drake on Locked On Big 12 as well. Drake, always great having you on.
JT, believe it or not, it's a pleasure.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. A lot to talk about on next week's shows, and we look forward to seeing you then.